Television. It offers an incredible insight into our shared history.
Here is the London weather forecast. There may be a few bright intervals.
Around midday.
Over the last 60 years, ITV has built up an extraordinary archive of real-life footage from around the country.
Do you know how many grams there are in a kilo?
It shows a constantly changing nation, from pop music...
I've never reckoned much to Beatles on it when they first come out.
...to our taste in food.
This is Birmingham's only horse butcher. He's been here for 20 years.
In this series, using rare footage often not seen for decades, we'll look back at how our lives have undergone an extraordinary transformation since ITV first hit our screens.
How do you feel about sharing a toilet with 15 other people?
Well, it's a bit ridiculous, you know.
The past might seem like a different country, but this was Britain as seen on ITV. Tonight, we'll see how over the last 60 years, ITV has charted enormous changes in our homes and on our high streets.
Don't forget, it's bargain day. Buy your joint the pre-packed way.
There's revealing clips from across the decades that show how we've worked.
Here we're trying to display what it will be like when people work from home.
Rested.
Mr. Clark has curtains that close at the touch of a button.
And played. But let's start very close to home. In 1966, Britain was facing a housing crisis. A growing population meant there simply weren't enough homes to go around. And as this episode of Granada TV's The World Tomorrow shows, these trainee town planners in Leeds had some very strong opinions on exactly what the problem was.
The semi-detached is one of the curses of our modern cities. People crave for individuality in their own little buildings, have their own front garden and their own little back wall. They're going to sprawl, eat away the countryside so that we've got nothing left. It becomes one vast meaningless sprawl, rather like Los Angeles.
Doesn't look much like Los Angeles to me. But the local councils of the day did have a solution up their sleeves, and the answer was to take to the skies. High-rise flats like these were popping up all over the place in the 1960s, but one leading architect of the time was already thinking of the future, albeit a very strange one.
The tower is made out of concrete, and the pods are made out of plastic. This is in order to take advantages of the best qualities of the two materials. Down here we have lavish car parking facilities, also lift motor rooms and air conditioning plant, also some shops, upon which these plastic living pods are hung, which have a hook the owner is renting, so to speak. The crane picks up this pod from the truck. Then this arm traverses in and suspends this pod onto the end of the concrete arm. As architects tend to say, we know how people should live. They're jolly well going to live as we say they should. I think, though, that architects must offer choice to the public. We should offer these things to people and let them make their own minds up. If they want them, they'll take them. If they don't, they won't.
Hardly surprisingly, they didn't.
People want to live in something that looks like a home. That doesn't look like a home.
Looking on a scale model like this,
it is difficult.
It is very difficult to imagine it, because it looks like something out of Doctor Who at the moment.
Well, that told him. Of course, once we'd chosen the type of home we wanted to live in, we all wanted the latest high-tech gadgets to put in it. And as this report from Ulster TV shows, back in the 60s there were plenty of exhibitions showing off all the latest weird and wonderful labour-saving devices.
Well now, here's something of great interest to the housewife, particularly if she comes to the show. This will certainly attract her. This is a new large-capacity dishwasher. And according to the manufacturers, you can put a 42-piece set of crockery plus the cutlery in it, and this will wash it, dry it, and do everything else with it. It certainly is something to see.
Looks great. Can it get Coronation Street?
Well, here's something interesting that I found as well. It almost looks like one of those spot-the-light competitions that you find with these fun fairs going around the country. But in fact, no, this is quite a boon to the householder, in that you can vary the density of your light to any degree that you require. At the moment, the light is off, as you can see. But should you require just a wee bit, or perhaps a bit more, or perhaps a wee bit more, or you can take it out altogether.
20 years later, dishwashers and dimmable lights will be a common fixture in many of our homes. And by then, Central News was reporting on even more advanced design breakthroughs.
Microchip technology in the home can help us all live better and cheaper. £5,000 worth of microcomputers will monitor your heating and lighting costs. They'll even phone you if there's an emergency while you're away. You may rarely go out though. Video screens linked directly to the office mean more time at home with the wife. Now there's a mixed blessing. From the very practical to the sublimely luxurious, this £2,000 bathtub, which features an exhilarating whirlpool effect at the touch of a button.
But this wasn't the first time whirlpool baths have been featured on ITV. Yorkshire Television's Austin Mitchell had already cleaned up when it came to that claim.
I've come here in the cause of scientific investigation to take a bath. It's a bit inconvenient because I'm here on the moors above Keighley at a place called Crossroads, but I've come here to take a bath, personally, because I've heard that Mr. Leslie Sherrant, who lives here, has invented a revolutionary new bath. Leslie, what on earth made you decide to revolutionise that great British institution, the bath?
It was, as usual, most of the invention. It was a matter of accident originally. My wife wanted to have a lot of bubbles out of variety of mixtures, and never she could succeed in getting any bubbles at all. So I made an apparatus which gave her plentiful of bubbles. After that, I discovered that suddenly the bubbles disappeared, and all that was left was massaging with water. I called my wife. She took one look at it and thought that it was a washing machine. So I then wondered, why shouldn't we have washing machines for everything?
So this was a washing machine for people, is it?
Washing machine for people, yes. It is fully automatic baths.
Well, that sounds fantastic, but do you actually come out cleaner from this bath than you would from an ordinary bath?
Yes, well, if the water jets are going all around you and the air currents are passing you by, that washes you, but actually, fundamentally, it is the bubbles.
OK, well, Calendar asks, can you face the challenge?
Yes, definitely.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath.
It's a good job Austin brought that glamorous assistant with him.
Just relaxing in the tub.
Oh, it's a very nice bath, isn't it?
Well, I stepped out.
The other thing about this bath, which I'm a real convert, is the bubble display you give it. Just look at this. Angie?
Yes?
Angie?
Hello.
Where are you?
Here.
Where are you?
Come and find me.
I wasn't going to have a bath for another 2 months yet, but an opportunity like that. Don't watch. I mean, go away and watch something else. Switch over to the other channel or something. This is very embarrassing. Angie, still there?
Waiting.
Have we really just a minute?
And to think he went on to become an MP. That's quite enough of that, thank you. But it wasn't just whirlpool baths that people were getting into a lather about in the 70s. This ATV report from Nottingham may look like a scene from a Charles Dickens novel, but it was actually filmed in 1977.
And for something like 24p, you can bring your weekly wash down here, scrub it, boil it, and do whatever you want to do with it. And that's been the way of things for the last 45 years. But no more. The last remaining public wash house in the Midlands is to be scrapped.
Excuse me, my love, what's the attraction of this place?
Well, years ago, not at the moment, but years ago, it used to be really nice to come in and find out whether your neighbours had twins or whether she hadn't, or to gossip and also get your work done. With a nice, friendly manner, you know.
What are you going to do when it closes down?
Well, the only thing we'll have to do is go back to the Stone Age, washing in the sink will get automatic.
George Fern, you're the Recreation Director for Nottingham City Council. Why, in fact, is this place having to be shut down?
Well, in the main, because we're losing about £7,000 a year, but coupled with the fact that most of the machinery is now obsolete, we can't get spares for it.
Well, they're washing machines like I've never seen in my life before. But you've also got an ironing room here, which, of course, the modern laundrette doesn't have.
Oh, yes.
Now, how does that work?
Well, again, the lady, when she's got her clothes washed, she can dry them quite easily. We have spin dryers. Then she can go along and iron them on the ironing machine for a few pence.
Amazing to think that places like this were still in existence less than 40 years ago. And equally extraordinary that until the 1960s, some of us in the more rural parts of Britain weren't able to enjoy the benefits of things like these brought to us by electricity. It was the nationalisation of the industry in the 1940s that made electricity affordable for most. But as our next report from HTV in Wales shows, one small village in the Brecon Beacons didn't get switched on until 1960. And even then, the locals didn't seem particularly plugged into the idea.
What do you think about this new electricity?
It's all right.
What are you going to do with it?
Oh, use it, of course.
And what are you going to have in your house?
Oh, I don't know. What will I have?
You're going to have a radio set or a television set?
No.
Why not?
You must have a lot of money to have them things.
Do you think it's going to be very expensive, Mrs. Davis?
Oh, yes, too expensive for us. We are only old age pension, you see.
Wouldn't you like to cook with electricity?
No, because I got a beautiful oven and I've been used to it.
What difference will electricity make to your life? What sort of gadgets are you going to have?
Well, I don't know. Television, I think. I hope, anyway. That's marvellous.
Coming up next, some more marvellous moments from ITV's archives as we hit the high street.
Is your husband hard to please? Keep him happy with Star Brand cheese.
And we'll take a peek behind the lacy curtains of this saucy shop in Birmingham's city centre.
Everything you do sell and do market is connected with sex.
You could say that, yes.
This is why, of course, it's called a sex shop.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Britain, as seen on ITV, where we're plundering the archives to show how our great nation has been portrayed on the small screens over the past 6 decades. It's time to go shopping now, so prepare to fill your trolley full of fascinating footage
Pound of mushrooms, 30
as we remember retail as it used to be in the days before online ordering and self-scanning tills.
Are you an expert shopper, or are you somebody who buys it all at the one shop?
No, I shop around and look for the cheapest ones.
In 1963, the Granada TV documentary series World in Action was reporting on a brand new sensation appearing on our streets, the supermarket, or as they called it back then, the supermarket.
Britain today spends £5,000 million a year on food. Nearly £10 a week for every family in the country. Every day, more and more of this money goes into the supermarket tills. Indeed, a new supermarket will open somewhere in Britain nearly every day of this year. The supermarkets have revolutionized shopping in Britain. In less than 10 years, they've converted the nation to the habit of do-it-yourself shopping.
This one in Leicester has just been built. Importantly, more than half of the space was given over to a drive-in car park.
Well, how else are you supposed to get in? Meanwhile, back inside the store, supermarket bosses were coming up with all kinds of clever tricks to make us part with our hard-earned cash.
Soft music, bright lights, gay decorations. These are only some of the weapons of the shopping revolution.
The supermarket scientist even decides the music to suggest that the whole thing is fun, because that's when people spend more.
Clever housewives feed the troops with tasty canned and packaged soups. Is your husband hard to please? Keep him happy with Star Brand cheese.
Even the coffee sprinkled on the floor is there for a purpose. It smells nice, it's homely. That too makes people spend.
But it's not just the places where we spend our money that have changed, so have the places we keep it. In the 1960s, long before the days of ISAs and PEPs, banking was a much simpler process. But as this report from HTV News shows, the technology we now take for granted was already on its way.
This Queen's Road Bristol Bank is one of 36 of the Westminster Group throughout the country that are fitted with an automatic cash dispenser, a machine which enables you to take out money in £10 units at any time, night or day. It was fitted here late last year largely as an experiment and was one of the first of its type in the country. Now, this is how the system works. Every account owner is issued with one of these cards. The card is very simply fed into the machine. It is taken by the machine and the personal code number is punched out. In this case, 326232. And in a matter of 18 seconds, voila, here is £10 in nice, new, crisp £1 notes. The manager of the Queens Road branch is Mr. John Wright. Mr. Wright, in the 11 months that this system has been in operation, what success have you had?
Oh, a very great success indeed. This machine here is being used at about 150 cards a week, both during banking hours and after banking hours.
So it's a pretty successful venture. What kind of future do you see for it?
By Christmas, there will be between 50 and 60 in operation. After that, the number will grow very quickly.
Now that'll never catch on. Of course, once you'd withdrawn your money from that newfangled hole in the wall, you may have wanted to spend it on that special person in your life. And in 1965, Granada TV reported on some of the more unusual gifts that could now be found on our high streets.
For the lady who itches and likes to be scratched in the more inaccessible places, this is an 18th century Indian back scratcher made of gold, banded enamel and semi-precious stones. If scratching's no good, what better remedy for the whole thing than these poison pills hidden in the stem? Price, just £2,200.
And what about the perfect gift for the 60s man about town?
This is a cocktail party crutch, a sort of keep you up when everything gets a bit much for you. Halfway down on a sort of parrot swing for non-spill as you lurch about a glass. Here on the table, an ashtray and a compass to make sure you're pointing in the right direction when you finally leave. Hanging from the table, so you can't lose it, your front door key, and an address book to make sure you've got to the right place when you finally get there. Price of the crutch, £11, 10 shillings.
Yes, I don't think I'll bother, thank you. When it came to clothes shopping in the swinging 60s, London was the place to be. As this ITV documentary shows, a fashion revolution was taking place on the streets of Soho.
In less than 10 years, Carnaby Street has exploded on London with a shower of unheard-of colours, shapes and ideas. The scene, the gear, the pop art, the mad, mad world where it all happens, where it all moves, where purple goes with pink and today only gives way to tomorrow. If it's new, if it's gay, if it's way out, if it moves, then it's Carnaby Street. It's a revolution.
Carnaby Street was a magnet for the hip youngsters who wanted to break the mould when it came to style. It was cool, it was colourful, and it was kitsch, but it certainly wasn't for everybody.
Oh, I can't say that I particularly approve of some of the styles, and particularly of the more outre ones, but I do appreciate that the expression of, what shall I say, the exuberance of affluent youth.
Well, Carnaby Street. Of course, I should say, first of all, that I wore Oxford bags, so I'm not narrow-minded about this kind of thing. But you can sex an egg, you know about oysters. But I find it terribly difficult with some of these long-haired young men to differentiate between the sexes, and this could be a matter of considerable inconvenience.
Inconvenient indeed. Which is why city gents like these, with their smart suits and bowler hats, were far more comfortable shopping on another of London's streets that was, and still is, famous for fashion.
Here, the relationship between a gentleman and his tailor is unique. A gentleman's tailor is a professional, like a doctor or a solicitor. If a man wishes to be dressed correctly, there is only one way, and that is to patronise the right tailor.
We've always been fairly exclusive. In the old days, my father wouldn't have a new customer in here without a personal recommendation. In lots of cases, it had to be a written recommendation. The customer would come in with a letter in his hand. Good afternoon.
It's all a matter of trust. Put your trust in a Savile Row tailor and you can relax. Your size is already recorded. If you put on an inch or two, your pattern will be suitably altered, but your original shape, never forgotten.
Suits you, sir.
And the man you have to thank is the cutter. It all depends on this man's work. A Savile Row cutter stands at the pinnacle of his profession, and no suit in the world is ever quite the same if it hasn't been cut in Savile Row.
But not all of our high street establishments have been quite so respectable. By 1971, reports were coming in about a very different kind of retail outlet that had opened in the centre of Birmingham, one that might have seemed a bit more at home in the streets of Amsterdam.
Mr.
Steer, you've opened a sex shop this morning. What does that mean in simple terms?
We have opened a surgical store. You have said sex shop.
Surgical store, then?
That's right.
What makes that any different to an ordinary chemist?
Well, the difference is we don't sell, I think the word is pharmaceutical goods. We don't dispense any
medicines,
medicine,
like
that's
that.
right.
So that everything you do sell and do market is connected with sex.
You could say that, yes.
This is why, of course, it's called a sex shop.
I think the penny's about to drop.
All right, yes, fair enough.
How are you going to answer your critics, and there may be quite a lot amongst the general public, who say that you are a sex shop, a dirty shop, pandering to the permissive society?
By facing up to it and explaining to the people that we are here not to offend anybody. We are here purely for marital harmony.
I asked people in Birmingham this morning how they felt about the shop opening.
A sex shop at my age. Couldn't care bloody less. Let the kids do what they like.
It's all right if you're broad-minded about them things. Myself, it doesn't bother me.
You don't mind one way or the other?
No.
Fair enough, really, if it's not, pushed down your throats.
Next time on Britain, as seen on ITV, we'll be travelling back through the archives to see how the way we get around has changed. We'll reveal why too much tinkering with his undercarriage got this car enthusiast into trouble.
Yes, you brute.
We'll find out why sales were taking off for this aeroplane entrepreneur.
Is that the right idea for you? 4 seats? Yeah. Cow-proof, fine, yeah. I doubt if it's cow-proof.
And we'll recall how easy it was to take a wrong turn in the days before sat-nav.